Welcome to A Mason's Work, the podcast where we review Masonic symbols and illustrate how they can be used to solve problems in everyday life. With your host, Brian Mattox, a proud member of the Craftsman Online Media Network.
Over the past couple of weeks, we've talked a lot about how you want to focus on process over outcomes. And one of the ways you're going to get there is by moving your mindset. Mindset is super important in the entirety of this conversation around how do you change from outcomes driven to process focused. So before we dig deep into the mindset conversation, let's talk about work in general, either work with groups or work by yourself. It's important to understand that work emerges when you create a space for it. Work is not just something you do. It happens in relation to the space you're in. And when you create space for work, like the mental space or things like that, you really are setting up an environment for the work to emerge. So what does it mean to set up a space? Creating a space is not, so it's easy to start with, it's not blocking your calendar. It's not laying out materials. It's not sitting in front of your to-do list and just kind of waiting for things to happen. Those things are fine, but that's not really what we're talking about. Creating a space for meaningful work is a combination of mindset, environment, and kind of emotional readiness. And the best place to start, like I said, is mindset. So the shift we're after is this. When you're focused on the outcome, you're busy kind of getting attached to what it should be. And in places where that doesn't work, where you don't really have a concrete understanding of what the final answer is going to be, or the final sort of product of your work is going to be, you get stuck, and it tends to create ambiguity, and the process just kind of stalls. So what we're looking for is moving in that process orientation from embracing those outcomes to embracing the work itself as a form of play. I know it doesn't sound serious. It doesn't sound like it's going to solve the problem. And we're conditioned in a lot of ways to think about work in this very sort of certain, intense, outcome-focused way. But there's a version that's kind of much more useful, and it helps a lot of us get from this kind of blocked state to, the best work of our lives. And that's what play is. Play is a discovery process where you get to, not measure yourself against yesterday. You're not comparing your output to your neighbors. You're in the joy of the experience itself. This discovery process where you're putting kind of new perspectives on the same experience, or you're noticing, you're moving deeply into the work that you're used to doing, noticing that there's still more to surface, more that it can teach you, bringing a kind of curiosity to something that you may have done a lot of times before. That's where play really starts to kind of make sense. Now, this moves beyond being kind of just doing the easy stuff and being bored because you've done it a billion times and you just can't put your mind in it anymore. It's more like moving past a standardization of the outcomes to noticing the differences. It's loosening the grip on what it needs to be and allowing the work itself to change and evolve to create new and different outcomes that are maybe slightly divergent. Maybe they're better, maybe they're worse, but it's that exploration that really creates a lot of value. In the Lodge experience, we understand this intuitively. A man who enters to perform a ritual for like the hundredth of time with the same sort of rote memorization that he brought the first time, it's never actually learned the work. It doesn't create the space for transformation. It's only when the sort of memorization activity stops and the engagement, the transmission portion of the conversation in the ritual really starts to deliver on the outcome. And that's what we're building towards over the course of this week and the series overall. You may have felt it before, at least briefly, when the work is going, when you can drop your ego for a little bit. The work just kind of moves. Time disappears. That experience you had maybe when you were a kid where the days seem to last forever and you only come up for air once, an unknown amount of time has passed, once the needs of your physiology have just kind of like been neglected for so long that they can't be ignored anymore because you're so enriched and entrenched in the work. This kind of experience is available to you, and it is through this creating space, this conscious understanding of the mindset you have to bring to the table to make this work. It can be maintained, it can be created, and it can be intentional. So as we work through this, as you work to understand what this means and try and do it for yourself on a regular basis, the challenge here is to think about the last time maybe in your life that the work felt effortless. It felt special and intentional without being intentional and special. It may have taken on a character of flow. And when we talk about flow, we're really talking about this kind of place where you're not trying to do stuff. It's just happening and you're kind of along for the ride. Think back at the last time that happened. Try and figure out what was going on. What were you doing at the time? What made it work? And what knocks you off of that kind of headspace or out of that heart space? We'll build on this over the course of the week. See you next time.
The views represented in this podcast are those of the speaker alone and are not representative of any grand or subordinate lodge.
Hi, Brian here. I wanted to thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any suggestions or guidance for further episodes you'd like to see or hear, whatever the case may be, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at masonswork.com, and we will try and incorporate your suggestions into a future recording. Thanks.
Freemasonry teaches us that the true work is within, a lifelong journey of reflection, discipline, and discovery. At A Mason's Work, we help Masons bring out their best selves through meaningful self-inquiry and symbolic practice. From personal reflection to lodge engagement, we offer tools that turn symbols into action. Visit us at amasonswork.com. The work is within. The time is now.